Where are we sitting?
There we go.
Is that weird? Do I look at you or look at the camera?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Lost and Found podcast, where I have got my good friend Robert. Say hello.
Hi!
Who has come along to add to the dialogue that we've been having on this podcast so far around recovery. So I met Robert just over 2.5 years ago. It was suggested that I went to a group that he had set up, was it 3 years ago? And that was a group of
recovery
mine.
group, yeah.
A recovery group.
Yeah.
That was a group of mine for a little while. And yeah, we've just kind of stayed connected ever since. And yeah, I think that's just kind of testament to the fact that I think one thing that people have when they come into recovery is that they're worried that their life is over and they're not going to have any friends because all their friends are still doing that thing and you're no longer doing that thing. And it's not to say that you might not still maintain some of those friendships that you used to have with those people that are still out drinking or using drugs, but perhaps you probably spend a little less time, so it's important that we start making friends with similar interests. And what you come to realise is that actually people are not really boring. They've got,
What do you mean by that?
well, there's people out there who are sober and getting on with their lives and are really happy.
Yeah, got it.
And how long have you been around? How long have you been in recovery, Rob?
I have been in recovery for abstinence from all mind and motoring chemicals for 17 years. 17 years, and I mean, to touch on what you were talking about a little bit, so basically I came in when I was 19, and that is a time when traditionally you're supposed to be kind of partying and raving and I don't know, all this stuff, Glastonbury and Ibiza and all that, and I didn't do any of that stuff. And that's not to say I can't do it now, but what I'm saying is my drinking and drugs made my life kind of really very small. And I know you've heard me say stuff like this before, so I'm just saying, but it's like I signed up for, in that lifestyle that we were talking about, amazing times, yachts, I'm being serious. Like beautiful girls, models. This is what I thought was going to happen. Parties all the time, just living the life of Riley. This is what I thought I was going to get out of that lifestyle, and what I actually just got was kind of like getting a lot smaller and a lot darker and a lot lonelier and a lot more isolated. And so actually, although that perception of, your life's over, is actually the complete opposite, because actually my life has completely done 180 and is flowered and opened up in ways that I wouldn't have even imagined or thought possible, because I was too busy in my little world. I don't know, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think actually I'd go as far as to say that there are people in recovery now that may have come in at a similar age to me, which is 27, 28, who now, having got a bit of time under their belt, would think, I wish I'd got sober earlier, actually.
You get in when you get in, though, don't you? You can't spend your life worrying about what could have happened and should have happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's people whose lives have been turned around and they're, in their 40s, 50s.
Yeah. Definitely. And what I found is as well that I thought drinking was making me kind of like more attractive to the opposite sex, and drug taking, but what I realised, it made me just sort of a bit of a nightmare. Very insecure. I'd breathe over them and when I was drunk and dribble on them, and that's not attractive or hot. And also, well, let's be honest. I mean, I'm putting it all out there. But yeah, drinking makes me super neurotic and like super isolated, and it doesn't takes all the joy out of everything, you know. And so to have found some joy unchemically aided is just beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, and I've had some of the happiest years of my life sober, you know.
I think as well though, like some people that can use alcohol safely, it continues to be a social lubricant.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, there's lots of studies out there now to say alcohol has zero health benefits, like has zero benefits to your body. But you know, at the same time, there are people that can have a drink and have a drink, and they'll be like, that tasted nice, but it's not like I craved another one. And that was one massive differentiation that I came to learn. Because I used to think when I was drinking that people were drinking at the same pace as me. Or I was thinking, oh, they're up for, you know, causing some mischief or turning this one drink in a pub into a party. Yeah. And actually not everyone is wired in that way. No. And I know to this day, like, I just know how my brain is wired. It's just not wired in a way that I can drink safely. Like sometimes it would be one or two and then go home. Sometimes I just wouldn't know. Towards the end it's kind of like that whole, you hear it a lot, all bets are off. Yeah. You don't know what's going to happen next. I still look at people that just have a couple of beers and just think, what are you doing? Like, I often share this, but my ex-girlfriend, she has a bottle of Desperado and she puts a stopper in it to save it for later. She just has half a bottle of beer and saves it for later, and I don't know what the hell that is about. I still don't identify with that. I think that's insane behaviour, and that's probably why I need to not drink. You know what I mean? That's probably why, because people say to me, "Oh well, I'm getting the taste for it. I'm feeling the effects. I want to stop," and I'm like, "But why? Why would you want to stop? That's the whole point of it, isn't it? You know." And what I found as well is that a bit of social awkwardness isn't gonna kill me, and also that social awkwardness kind of there might be some spiritual growth in that. There might be some actual growth in there, and that it forces me to get out of my comfort zone and start talking to someone that I wouldn't normally do, or reach out to someone, and actually you start to build friendships and relationships that sustain and improve your life, because you've been forced to get out of your comfort zone. You know, like sometimes things aren't always comfortable, and that's all right. That's good. Like a lot of my best experiences have been right on the edge of what's comfortable. In fact, it's been uncomfortable, but I've looked back at it and thought, that was awesome. Well, you know, I'm so glad I pushed myself to do that. You know, and maybe when you're in this little cocoon, you don't push yourself as much. I don't know. You know, Yeah, 100%. And I think one thing that kind of helped me stay, because so many people, and I'd be interested to hear, based on your experience of being in the recovery circles for a while, like what's the biggest barrier to entry for people who, you know, they come in and then they go back out, and they go back in and come back out, they don't stay and give it a go. For me, I think one of the reasons I stayed was because of that. I was kind of into that, like, before coming into recovery, I was like, I want to grow. I want to, you know, I was reading all the self-help books. I was like, I would do things to try and push my, you know, go and approach women, having not had a drink, you know, not had a couple of friends who...
How'd that go?
Sometimes all right.
Yeah, good.
But you know, it's all about this backing yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
But also, people can smell your energy when you're just like, oh, I feel really nice. You know, that energy that you give off someone when you have no idea what you're actually going to say to someone. Yeah. And anyway, that's a different story. But the point is that one thing that kept me in recovery was that I was noticing that this is way more than just putting down drinks and drugs, which of course was massively important for me to start living, getting to grips with how to behave and live in society. But I was being put in situations where I was being put outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah. Well,
not just out in life, but in recovery.
Well, okay. So basically, one of the biggest things I see, and this could just be me, but is that, so drinking drugs is a lifestyle, right? So it's like a lifestyle, and whether you agree with it or not, there's a sort of sense of community around it a lot of the time, like-minded people, and it's a lifestyle. And for me, my recovery has to be a lifestyle as well. It has to be an all-encompassing way of living my life through principles and kind of love and tolerance and progression and that for me is the biggest, I see, the biggest barrier is the unwillingness to adopt it. Now it seems like a big deal, but when I realise that I'm suffering from something that's going to kill me, you know, and that one kind of was quite clear to me that I didn't really have much of a choice, you know, like this stuff is like, it's got me. The idea of adopting a lifestyle wasn't such a big deal, and actually it comes to sustain you, and because you get that sense of unity, you get that sense of love, that sense of community spirit, that sense of belonging. That I was always, you know, people often say that addiction is like a lack of unity and lack of belonging, don't they? And so you can get that without chemicals. That's what you're after, and that's for me that gets more people than anything else is they're not willing to assimilate into the lifestyle. They just want to do it like a hobby, like you know, like I'll go to kickboxing and then I'll judo and then I'll do a little bit of that, you know. And it's like, well, that for me, now it sounds like a big deal, but it kind of wasn't. It was the next logical progression, mainly because I didn't have much going on in my life. I didn't have anything going on, so it was like, okay. And of course, you know, absolutely, you want people to get out into the everyday life. So one of the things I always say, I won't go on too much, but like one of the things I always say is that you know, like I was taught to go out and exercise with my fellows, like walking and cycling and running and swimming and climbing mountains. We've climbed mountains together and we've walked up, you know, a few mountains. You almost fell off one, didn't you? And you know what I mean? And you know, but so it isn't boring. You know, I've jumped off cliffs. I mean, I've done coast steering. You know, I've done all this stuff and with recovery people. And one of the things that it made me realise was that kind of healthy, happy, well-adjusted family people, like you see them out doing that stuff with you. So you're out on a Sunday when normally you'd be absolutely hanging and hungover or coming down and be like, oh my God. And they're just out there walking their dogs, you know, bike clubs, walking clubs, and you just realise that that's kind of like part of the mainstream life anyway. Does that make sense? So really, a lot of my recovery has just been kind of like assimilating into the mainstream of what most other healthy, happy people, normal people are doing anyway. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? They're not sitting in the room sketchy, like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
But of course, when you're in it, like, and I remember, like, you look outside the window, well, sometimes it gets light, you know, you've still been going and it's got light, and you see all these people going about their day.
What they're doing, yeah.
But it's not like what they're doing, it's like why, you're kind of like, why can't I do that? Like, why have I put myself into this situation? And the madness of, particularly with my using, was that regardless of, even though I knew I'd forget about the consequences every single time, it was the powerlessness I had over that kind of picking up the drug and taking the drug was far stronger than the logical, oh, this is going to make you miss that appointment and make you feel ill for about a week.
Of course, yeah.
It's a strong, you know, whether that's, it doesn't really matter what the drug is. Which actually brings me on to, because I think one thing I'm starting to kind of realise is that I think in some capacity we're all addicted in some way. Addiction is a sense like a thing to, it helps us avoid facing certain things, and some of them are a lot more subtle. They're not just drugs and alcohol. Sometimes it can be things like, I mean, sugar is a drug. Sugar is, I think, more addictive than cocaine is. You know, drinking too much coffee isn't great. You know, there's loads of things that we're still, our phones, technology for me. Like in terms of, if I think about what addiction, if I was to describe what addiction was, description robbed me of my time. and still today robs me of my time.
Definitely.
When I'm scrolling through Instagram
Mm-hmm.
and I catch myself in 10 seconds, I'm like, oh God, I just wasted that time. Because it's my phone's buzzed or something.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not as, you say like it's not harmful because it's not going to kill you, but yes.
Well,
But
one of the things that, I mean, this is, once again, I want to really make this clear that to most people in society, this is just all like, yeah, of course I know that, of course I know that, but I didn't know this, I didn't know this, I didn't know this, so I didn't know that.
you're not saying anything new. Like
I'm not saying anything new.
I'm
not saying that. But what I'm saying, this was a revelation to me. Okay, so that the constant thought of others and being of service to other people is where I find my happiness, my connection, my joy, my peace, my spirituality, my love. It is a bedrock of my life, and I'm not perfect. I don't always behave like that, but for me, those sort of distractions are a symptom of not trying to live in that a bit more. And people I love and look up to and respect live their lives like that. They're always, almost minute to minute. What can I do next for, I just see it in normal life. People like my kids, and I know that's normal for everyone. For me, it wasn't. It was a revelation, but it truly, I won't go too much into it. But I remember listening to this program about. It talked about material success and actual status and monetary success can only take you so far on that sort of journey. But they use the term like weavers, like people that weave. That bring connections together in each other's lives, that pull each other in, that kind of establish networks of social networks, and that's the stuff that really keeps it alive and vibrant for me, and it's not a chore. Do you know what I mean? It's not a chore. It's not like, oh God, how long can I have until I can get a beer? It's not like that. It's a real sense of community, of belonging, of and in the groups, but also out in just in general life. That the more I try and do that. Look, for example, if I'm a part of a kickboxing club, I try and weave together, try and reach out to people, pull them in, rope them in.
Yeah.
Reach out.
One thing I would say with you, Rob, and this is again another thing that I picked up from recovery is. You can not always. Sometimes, like me, you're lazy, but you're also very action oriented as well.
I have to be.
And that's something that I realised. That's like recovery 101.
Absolutely.
Like putting in certain actions every day, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm putting action to my recovery. Now I need to put action into other things that I want into life. Yeah, and to make things happen. I need to reach out to that person. I need to organise this thing.
Yeah.
And actually, when we apply ourselves to that, we're quite good because we're quite can be a bit extreme.
I'm obsessive, yeah.
But you need someone who's going to be like, right, let's
get on with it. Leaders.
Go to Ireland and climb some mountains.
Absolutely, because I was always around people that did that for me.
Yeah.
And I remember there's a point in my life where I thought, well, why are we not doing any of these trips anymore, or these outings, or this unity, or this get-togethers? And then I was like, well, you've been around for a bit now. That should be you, mate. And I was like, oh God, I don't want to do it. I'm lazy. That's too much effort. Oh my God. But then I thought, but I crave that fellowship and that unity and that togetherness. So I'm going to have to go out and do it, and it's not always been an easy thing. There's been ups and downs and bumps in the road with that stuff, but literally, I can't. My life is infinitely more fulfilling when I do that stuff. So I have to. If no one else is going to do it, I'm going to have to get. Which is kind of the message of recovery altogether, really, isn't it? It's like get up and do it. Like you only get one life. I remember people telling that to me in early days. You only get one life. It's not a dress rehearsal. And I was like, it was one of those truisms. You're like, oh well, yeah, that's really. But then that's really true. It's like you have only got. Like I remember ringing a friend and saying, "Oh, I've just been sitting at home feeling sorry for myself," and he said, "What a waste." And he was absolutely right. It's like I haven't got time to waste in feeling sorry for myself. And I've done it all. I've done my life's depression. Already. I've done my whole quota for however long I live. I've done it all. I've got to get out there and I've got to try and be happy because it's,
Yeah. I think where there's a line with that, it's like, yeah, I mean, you'll say, oh, I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself, and you know, the nice thing is that in a way, you know, we have got tools now to help us with
Absolutely.
that sort of stuff, but
Yeah.
equally, like denying, as addicts, you know, we are typically quite sensitive people, so I think it's important not to deny emotions, but also there is a bit of a sort of like, okay, what I mean is I wouldn't want someone to say, okay, man up, you know,
No,
because I think that's quite toxic.
no,
But I think
it's not like that.
Like I think it's important for people, their feelings about stuff to be heard. I think that's actually what a lot of people in society want is just to be heard. You know, not just like people like us.
So one thing I really want to get across is that nobody was ever kind of dismissive of my feelings. In fact, they cared about what I was feeling deeply. They cared about my emotional state and my well-being deeply. But they were trying to show me that I would get a healthier and happy perspective on my negative feelings and my inward facing and my all this inward stuff if I turned my life outwards and started trying to help others. Does that make sense? You know, so if I
Yeah.
so they knew that a lot of my problems, although really valid, and like no one's not had trauma or pain or anything like that, they were saying that I might get a better perspective on them and kind of process them and move through them if I started trying to help other people. And obviously I had to get, you can't transmit something you haven't got, you know, but like and that has really been my experience, is that like I had depression and I was sitting and so I've had it, you know, and I remember people suggesting kind of structure and discipline and eating healthily, and it's never going to make my life worse. Kind of like living a good life, trying to eat healthy, it's never going to make it worse. It's never going to make, you know, I'm not a doctor or anything, you know what I mean, but it's never going to make my life or symptoms of whatever I've got worse if I just start to live healthier and try and get regular sleep and drink water and eat well, and you know, that's never going to be a bad thing, is it? You know,
Yeah.
Which obviously seems obvious, doesn't it? I mean, that seems obvious. I'm going into Captain Obvious territory again, but you know, this was a revelation to me, you know. So, yeah.
Looking after yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. You get people who, on the one hand, what is it about? Like, it's like there's a certain personality type, isn't there? It seems like with like cocaine, for example, there's a certain type of person that seems to be attracted to it. Wouldn't you say?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist or a doctor or anything like that. I just know that I have a tendency to be a bit grandiose and a bit self-obsessed and a bit self-deprecating at the same time, and a bit sensitive.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
You're a bit self-obsessed, I suppose.
God,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe not even knowing that I am.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I feel like, how can I put this? Like, I feel I've undergone some real kind of spiritual shifts and growth that has just been an awesome thing. It's just been an awesome thing. It's just been really awesome, and I love it. And I think it's available to anyone, really. And yeah, I don't know. Like,
what would you say to someone that is on the fence about, you know, trying out and eating?
well, I mean, we're here. We're not going anywhere, hopefully, and you know, I don't know. You know, we're here and we're very friendly. We don't bite, and you can always go back to the pub if you want. Like, no one's trying to. It's just. I think it was just nice to know that there was help out there. You know.
Mm.
I think there's people that get it, and there's help out there,
and it's people that are very like honest. It's like, you know, like people talk about, you go to therapy, it's very easy to lie to your therapist, isn't it? If you're going through some difficult stuff. Whereas what this program, again, another thing I've taken away from it is like, it's an opportunity to hear other people getting honest, which in turn may make you decide to get.
I think there's a real power in not being lectured to. You know, there's a real power in somebody who understands because they have lived it themselves, and they're not preaching to you, they're not trying to smack you around the head, they're just saying, I get it, I've lived it myself, and I'm not like that anymore. And that for me was what hooked me in, because one of my constant refrains when I was drinking was, you just don't understand. You just do not understand. I am very important, different, special. You just do not get it. And then when people started sharing their life experiences, I was like, okay, well, you kind of do get it. So,
yeah.
So, well. Do you know?
Yeah. Which is like, obviously a bit of ego deflation.
Well, it removes the, the dark genius, like I'm too special and different kind of platform, doesn't it? I'm too complicated and too clever and no one's going to get me. I'm just too.
Recovery is a journey, though. You know, it's once that's happened, it's. What areas would you say that you're now? I mean, so many years in. What areas do you still find
difficult,
tricky?
Just being a grown up.
Yeah.
Being an adult.
Yeah.
Paying bills. I don't know. I mean, I think one of the biggest areas of growth in my life is interpersonal relationships, intimate relationships. Not with girlfriends and stuff, but it's like it's learning to compromise. Learning to just learning to compromise, be thinking of others, being of service to others. It's not my natural inclination. It's not. It's not who I'm not naturally like this, but it's what I crave. So it's like there's the but like how can I put this, like no one's the finished perfect article, are they? And I've clearly been given by my higher power, God or whatever, to lots more areas of my life to invite this power in and fix me, and then also areas that I need to put some effort in myself to change, But I mean, how can I put this? For me, there's a real power in knowing that seeing the areas where you need to improve and then trying to incorporate spiritual principles into them and I don't know, does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making sense, I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's about trying to apply what we learn in recovery into real life, and one of those things is relationships, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And knowing, like, I think one thing I was certainly, and still can be if I'm a little bit off, is a little bit like reactive to comments, things, there are certain things or people that can trigger certain things. But another thing I've taken from recovery is the power of words. So like in meetings, we don't swear, for example, because...
that's not all true in all meetings, is it? But
I think, what I mean is I think there is something to say for what comes out of your mouth is something that's coming from your soul, that's coming from your soul, that's coming from your... I do believe that.
I think it's I read this really good book about love, and it's like, am I speaking? And I don't want to sound too nabby-pabby, but like love as in like, am I speaking with love? Am I speaking with respect and deference? And just because something that I'm saying doesn't offend me, I hopefully have developed a little bit more empathy to know that maybe it offends other people. So I'm gonna respect their wish. Thinking about others, having empathy for someone else. I don't maybe understand or agree with it, but because it matters to you, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna be open. I'm gonna try and learn. I'm gonna try and be open to that. And when you go into life with that mindset, you just all of this up. You get all this extra information that you wouldn't have got if you were closed and stuck in what I'm doing and what I'm saying is right, and I'm going to do what I want. And do you know what I mean? Like, if you open yourself up, you get more. I don't want to say, I don't know. I don't know if that was any good. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I see.
I noticed you yawned.
Sorry. That seems really rude.
Thanks, mate.
I'll tell you why I yawned. I couldn't sleep last night.
Oh, okay.
Because I think I ate too late. And I got up, I couldn't sleep. It was like 2 in the morning. I was like, I'm still not asleep. And then I had to wake up at 7. And then I've been on a run. So,
okay, alright.
But I'm
See,
really
too sensitive.
You're like, that teacher in the class goes, boring you, am I?
Yeah.
Boring
Well,
you.
obviously you've got somewhere else to be, haven't you? Apart from your own podcast that you invited me to.
No, but I think, let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Because otherwise we risk rambling. But
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rob,
Pleasure.
for coming along and sharing your experience of recovery. And to anyone that's curious about this world, I personally am happy to talk to you about what I've done to sort of get out of that mess. I'm sure Robert would help you in that regard as well. And I think we'll leave it there. So let's say goodbye to the camera.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.